Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Vera.
The Vera Untitled Show. The Vera Untitled Show. The Vera Untitled Show. The Vera Untitled Show. Let's talk about it. 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 On the field.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my show. I am excited. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about misconceptions and behaviors that are unresolved in parents that impact on them being a parent. And we didn't get all of it done. And so I have my guests back, Fouchina Kirkendall, and we're going to dive into this again and talk about these misconceived behaviors that impact on our families and on our lives. But before I do, let me do a brief introduction to Fouchina Kirkendall. She is the CEO of Chronicles of a Favored Woman and a resident of Duluth, Georgia. She currently holds a bachelor's in managerial arts from Charleston Southern University, as well as master credits in public administration from Strayer University. Along with her education, she has over 24 years experience in the nonprofit sector, advocating for those in need. Once a victim, now a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, she can recall the feelings of loneliness and confusion after decades of suffering in silence. She made the decision to face it and to help others do the same. It was at that point that she started using the power of her voice to speak up, to speak out, and to encourage others to do the same. So she's here today to touch lives. She is here, she's touched and redeemed. She said, out of her experiences is where Chronicles of a Favored Woman was birthed. So, Fouchina, how are you?
I am awesome. I want to make a correction. Once touched, now redeemed. That's very
Thank
important.
you. Okay,
That's
once
very
touched, now
once touched,
redeemed.
now redeemed. But
Ye-
thank you for having me on the show. I always have fun when I come to the show. So thank you for allowing me to grace the stage. Let me just apologize beforehand. I have on my leadership t-shirt because I used to be a team leader at the church and I didn't have time to go into my, fancy fancies, but we here to give the word and
Yes,
and the word don't come all dressed up and fancy. Okay.
that's
So we
right.
go ahead and put it down.
That's
But thank
right.
you for having me here.
Yes, well, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Now,
You got it.
I'm going to recap what we talked about the last time you were here. And
Okay.
we identified several misconceptions in behavior that can
Mhm.
impact on families. And I'm
Yes.
going to just run through the ones that we talked about on the first show. And then we're going
Mhm.
to delve into these other ones that also are just as impactful as these. The first one was avoiding conflict altogether. Rather than discussing and building, rather than discussing the issues, frustrations build up and you end up yelling and screaming or avoiding conflict altogether. And when we do that, it just festers and it grows and it ends up being like a passive aggressive situation, because once we keep stuff inside, then we flare up, and that can really cause problems in the family. The other is being defensive. Rather than addressing a complaint with an objective and willingness, we understand the other, to try to understand the other person's view. We deny any wrongdoing, and work hard to avoid looking at the possibility that I could be contributing to the problem. Denying responsibility may seem to alleviate stress in the short run, but it creates long term problems when children don't feel listened to and unresolved conflicts continue to grow. The other is overgeneralizing. When you hear a person say, "You always do this, you never do that," without stopping to think whether or not that is really true. No one always does something all the time. And so that's just a misnomer. Being right, never wrong. Do you know people like that? It's always right, never wrong. Can't make any mistakes. And then the psychoanalyzing, the mind reading, people thinking, I already know what you're going to say, I already know what you're going to do, without really thinking about what and how and where they're really coming from. So those were the ones that we talked about in our first session. So now I want to delve into the other ones.
Yes.
The first one is forgetting to listen. Now let's talk about listening for a minute. Now, let me ask you, Fouchina, when you're on the phone or you're on your tablet and your son comes up and talks to you, do you continue to work on the phone or on that tablet, or do you stop and truly listen to what they're saying?
The question I ask is it an emergency? Is important, is it an emergency? Because if I'm working, I work from home. So if you're coming to me, it needs to be an emergency. Is it something that can wait or something that cannot? Are you injured or are you hurt? Is my thing. And there's some, you could tell by your child's tone, something that's immediate and something that can wait a second, because
Yeah.
I make my money at home. So if I need to interrupt it, it means something is going down. And so, but I am guilty of it. I've been guilty of, he's coming to me and blah, 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 and I got other stuff going in my ear. And then I finally got to a point where my son told me he didn't feel like I was listening to him, or I would yell or whatever. And I had to stop for a second and come to a realization that it made him feel, regardless of what's going on with me, I'm going to always make time for you. I just need you to understand that if I'm working, and if it's not an emergency, because sometimes that emergency is, can I get a Twinkie? Or, you could just go in the cupboard and get the Twinkie. It's one of those non-frivolous things, I would say that. But I had to learn that, though. I really did. I really did have to learn it.
And not only when we're dealing with our children, but even when we're dealing in relationships
With people.
And some of the ways that we show that we're really not listening is when we interrupt others when they're talking, because we're not allowing them to get their opinion and their what they're trying to say across.
And if you don't mind me interjecting with that, sometimes people are just, they're listening, but they're not hearing. They're hearing, what is it? They're hearing me, but you're not listening. And sometimes you go in shutdown mode because you heard one thing that triggered. So you're just waiting for your opportunity to say something.
Yes. And also the rolling of the eyes or showing other negative expressions when others are talking. I have been in situations where that was the case. And when that is the case, it makes one feel worthless. I'm not important for you to listen to. And a child may feel that way, or even your significant other may feel that way. So really concentrate on giving your undivided attention when listening to people, not interrupting, not rolling the eyes, not showing any kind of negative expression. But communications is key. It is key. And the other is the blame game. And I think we talked about that a little bit in the last session.
Yes.
And I have to say, when I was younger, right after I had my son, I was bitter. And so as a result of being bitter, I remember a friend of mine from my church came to visit me, And we were talking, and I started saying, well, if it wasn't for this, if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for him, my life wouldn't be this way. And she looked at me and said, no, Vera, if it wasn't for you and the choices that you've made, your life wouldn't be this way. We
Right.
find it very easy to place the blame for our situations and our
Mhm.
conditions on other people when we
Exactly.
need to really look at what choices did I make that brought me here? What decisions?
What role did you play for us to get to this point?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And so by me recognizing and acknowledging, I was able to teach my son to be responsible. And I value that about him because he's very quick to call and say, hey mom, I messed up, I gotta fix it, and so being able to accept responsibility for your actions and your
Exactly.
behaviors is just very, very, very important.
Accountability and responsibility. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then trying to win the argument,
Yeah. Having the
sometimes.
last word.
Yes, making a case for all wrong. The other person is discounting their feelings and staying stuck in my point of view. This is how it is. This is how it's got to be. This is what I say. This is what you need to do. No, you
Hmm.
know, winning should be a two-way street. It should be compromise. It should be opportunity to look at both sides and all sides of the situation before it's
Hmm.
staying stuck and being dogmatic in your approach. That does not
Hmm.
help where children are concerned, nor does it help where relationships are concerned. And one of the other things, and I'm a biggie on this, making character attacks. That is something that bothers me to no end. Rather than addressing the behavior or the actions, we want to start attacking, belittling,
Hmm.
name calling. Uh-uh.
It's a manipulation tool.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so character attacks, it's not good anywhere, anytime. And we live in a country right now where that is like just a preponderance of how people are anymore.
Hmm.
And so let me ask you, how do you address the issue of belittling and name calling? And what are some things you might suggest to an audience?
Are you referring to the making character attacks, or are you going on
Yes,
a different level?
yes.
Okay. So a couple things. I had to learn to whatever you put out is what you receive back. That's what I had to learn because character attack can come across a lot of ways. As parents, sometimes we don't take accountability and we'll be like, well, my son did this. And as a result, character attack, not even realizing what you're doing. And then you have grown folks. Gossiping, I would say, is number one in that particular category. You may feel a certain way or whatever, and you're expressing yourself to someone else who doesn't have any idea what's going on, not realizing you're planting seeds. And every time you talk and you plant seeds, it's going to grow. And those weeds starts. And now you've already created a false reality or a misconception about this person. And
And
that's not right.
you're right. And gossip, I'm telling you, gossip destroys lives. And I remember, and this was many, many, many years ago, a member of my church, she called me and she started talking about other people. And
Yeah.
I said to her, you know what? Scripture says, keep thy tongue from speaking evil and thy
Hmm.
lips from speaking guile. And I
That's right.
then said, I am not comfortable with this conversation. I am not comfortable talking about somebody else that's not even
Yes.
here to defend themselves.
That's
And
yes,
and so the
exactly.
person the person hung up on me. She just hung up on me. But you know what's interesting? God don't like ugly.
He
And a
sure
lot of
don't.
times he will come back at you. And it this it ended up with this person not being able to talk at all. Not
Wow.
at all. Not being able to talk at all.
Mute.
And you know
Mm.
what? And I think about Muhammad Ali. We love him. We loved
Yes.
him. But he did a lot of that belittling and berating and that kind of stuff. Even though he was doing it in just as he was um, ready to battle, but he lost his voice as well. So we have to be careful how we use our tongues because God can take that voice away from you. He can take it away from you. And making character attacks, calling our kids out of their names, calling them stupid or dumb or lazy. You know, if you're doing that with your children, stop it.
Or you just like your dad. You just gonna be just like
Yeah,
your dad. Blah blah blah. You just
yes.
like your mama. Don't do that.
Don't do
Don't do
that.
that. Don't
No,
do
no. And
that.
you and character attacking the other parent.
Especially that.
You know, children should be able and allowed to make their own determination about their parent that may not be in the house. They
Right.
need an opportunity to see for themselves the type of person that they are. I
And I
feel it,
no,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
I feel it is so unfair and so out of order to berate and belittle your child's other parent.
Because you also have to remember it was your choice that they became their father. So just remember. So what does that say about you? That's what
Yeah,
you're saying. And one of the things, I have two boys, and I have one for my marriage, and then one for my ex-fiance. And one of the things I practice is, and my oldest son has told me this, he's 27. He said, Mom, you are a strong woman. Not once have you talked bad about my father. Even though it wasn't reciprocated, you never once. I said, because the word says, honor thy father and thy mother in the Lord, and thy days will be longer. It is not my place to create a false reality, because we're based it off of emotions, and that's a conversation for another day. And as people scorn people, it's not about you. It is about co-parenting for that child's sake, because they didn't actually come here. You made a decision. You deal with it, and just allow them to do whatever you do. And not one of the things I've learned, both of my kids are learning their father through them and through their character.
absolutely. And
Mhm.
my mother, you know, I didn't know my biological father, and when my mother told me when I was 10 years old, you know, that the person I had been calling dad was not my dad, then of
Mhm.
course there were a flood of questions. Who is my dad? Where's
Of
my dad? I don't want to see
course.
my dad and all that stuff. My mother never once berated him, belittled him, or anything, even though she left him when I was an infant. She never berated him. These were the things she would say to me. He was
Mhm.
intelligent. He served in the military. He he was an electrician. And then she said he was an alcoholic. And that's why she left him. But she never got into the details. She
But
never,
she kept it real. She, one of the things that goes back to what I say, I always tell my exes, I'm not going to lie on you, but I'm not going to lie for you.
right,
That's just all to it.
exactly.
And I love the way your mother did that, because I'm like that too. Listen, this is the reality. This is our reality, what we're dealing with, but you are to love your father. Okay, regardless of what kind of father you have, it is what it is, because you will get the honor in the end.
Yes,
So,
yes. And so honoring your parents and not using character attacks. I just, again, want to emphasize to your audience the name calling, the belittling with your children and or your significant other and
mhm.
or your friends and or anybody that you meet.
How about that?
It's just not necessary. We need
No,
to
it's
show
not. And
love,
it's a
be
waste of
love.
energy.
Oh
It's
God,
a waste
yes,
of energy. I don't have that type of time to give someone for foolishness when I could be using it for something positive and productive.
absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely. Yeah, and then the other one is stonewalling. Now, stonewalling is when one is defensively stonewalling or refusing to talk, or listen to others. So they're going to just, it's almost like they're doing like this, I don't want to hear, I don't want to hear, And so
Hmm.
when you do that, you're putting up defenses that's saying that I'm not open and willing to have this discussion. And even though it may be a difficult discussion, even though it may be a painful discussion, it is a discussion that needs to happen. And we
Yes.
need to be open and receptive and calm or stay calm as you're having the conversations and have that two-way dialogue. Because a person can't, if one person is talking and trying to get points across and the other person is just refusing to talk or even listen, then
Hmm.
that conversation is for naught. And it's not
Right.
going to resolve any problems. It's not going to resolve any issues.
Right. And I just want to add on to that when it comes to stonewalling is that it's okay if you're not in a position to receive. I tell people all the time, you know what? I'm not in a position to receive anything you have to say right now. So let's do this. Let's go home or let's take a minute. Let me get myself together and I can receive what you have to say in the morning.
And
But so
you,
I'm acknowledging that I'm not in a position to receive. I know I'm not going to listen because I'm still heated. So the best thing for me to do is to fall back for a moment. Let me go home, do what I need to do, pray about it, whatever the case may be, and then we can come back and address this when I'm in a better mind space to do that.
absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how you avoid the
Mm-hmm.
stonewalling. Rather than ignore or refuse to talk, just be upfront and say, now is not the time. I'm not ready for this. I need time to digest what's happened, and then we can come back. Just as Fouchina was saying, that's how you
Exactly.
eliminate the stonewalling.
And not only that, when someone is coming to you and giving you their position, respect it. Don't be one of those people that after I've already told you, because now you're going to put me to a point I don't need to be in, and you're going to get a tongue lashing that you didn't want to get. It's the truth. It's really the truth. It's the truth. Now I've asked you to fall back. I'm gonna leave this situation, but if you're still hacking at me, somebody's gonna do it. People are just human. We're going to react. Now I've already told you I can't handle this right now, so you get what you get at that point.
Absolutely. Now, what about this all or nothing thinking? Now, this type of thinking is polarizing and it's also dichotomous. And when we talk about dichotomy, it's two different sides to the same coin,
Yes.
for lack of a better way of putting it. So, I mean, it looks totally different on one side and it's polarizing. So it locks one into believing that a situation can only be viewed in two categories
Black and white.
rather than shades of gray.
Mm-hmm.
For example, someone saying, if I'm not a total success, then I'm a failure. Not, not just because we fail at something does not mean
Exactly.
that we are a failure. Look at
Exactly.
Abraham Lincoln, how many times he failed.
16.
He
16, I
failed.
believe. Mm-hmm.
And each time he learned from it and
Yes.
he became a better person from it. And that's the same with us. Just
Mm-hmm.
because we fail at something does not mean we are failures. It just means that this may not be the thing for you, or there's some things that need to be tweaked in order
I'm
to
gonna
make
put
it
it on a
happen.
I'm going to put it in the perspective of children. When we're like, okay, either you did or you didn't, it is or is not. And then my son schooled me on it. He said, Mom, there's another perspective I need you to look at. And then it didn't hit me. Okay, I was making it black and white when actually this is gray. So you know what? Let me hear it. And after I heard him out, I understood, okay, I was, like, and I was coming at bullet guns, boom, 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 because but after he, being the voice of reasoning, I said, you know what, you're absolutely right. And then I regurgitated what he told me. And I said, okay, so what you're saying is you did this because of this reason. And then, okay, now I get it. And I said, I will be more, I had to learn. My youngest son has been a true lesson to me in motherhood. He really has. But yeah, I would just say as parents, we have to learn everything is not in black and white.
Absolutely. Alvin says hello. Hello, Alvin E. Johnson.
Hi,
How are
Mr.
you
Johnson.
today? Thank you for being here.
Yes.
We're talking about misconceptions of behaviors that parents exhibit around their kids. And that's in many cases, is very much a part of how they've been most of their lives.
Yeah.
And so
it becomes a generational curse if it's not nipped in the bud.
Yes. So these are things that we really need to think about and change. Awareness precedes change. Now, there may be some things that we're talking about that may grab you and you're thinking, and if it kind of hits you a little bit, then you might want to take it into consideration. Or if you have been told that you do these things over and over again by other different people, then you might want to take it into consideration.
Yeah, it ain't everybody. It's not everybody, it's you.
Right. Right. And again, awareness precedes change. And when we know better, we do better. Now, if we choose to understand and still not want to make those changes, then that's on you. All we can do is like planting the seed, watering the plant, and then moving forward. Okay.
Exactly.
So the other one is catastrophizing.
Yeah, I got you.
Yes. Let me say it again. Catastrophizing.
Yes.
That is when we believe that we can magically predict the future without considering others more probable and other outcomes. And then I'll be so upset. I won't be able to function at all if this doesn't happen. Well, things don't always happen the way we want them to happen.
I got a better one. You just like your dad. You just like your mom. Blah, blah, blah. Is what we tell kids. We categorize them based on their behavior. We judge them based on what they do and categorize it towards the emotions we feel about their parent. And that is so wrong.
It is so wrong. It is so wrong. And so I'm hoping that people are getting something out of this, because this is so important. We can't change anything if we are not aware, nor can we change anything if we're not willing to be open and receptive to a different way of doing things.
Now, and we can't change other people until we first change ourselves. Absolutely. We can't change other people. We could just change ourselves.
Absolutely. And I want to say something about that, because so often people get into relationships where there are issues from the beginning. And then
I can change him. Not at all.
No. The only person we can change is ourselves.
And that's it.
And if there are things about your spouse or significant others that you see before you're even really connected, you might want to think about some things.
It ain't going to get no better. It ain't going to get no better. It's not going to get any better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Let's see. Alvin says, Get this out there, Vera. It's all about humanity and the preservation of life. This
Yes.
will unify the purpose as one. Amen. Thank you
Yes.
very much. I really appreciate you saying that. It's so true. Each of us need to
Mhm.
decide what it is that we can do to make a difference in our lives and in the lives of others. And when I came across these misconceptions, I thought everybody needs to look at these. Everybody
Mhm.
needs to identify what it is that they're doing that is causing them angst, but
Mhm.
also causing other people to have issues and problems. Alvin
Mhm.
also says the focus is on humanity and the preservation of life, individually united. Amen. Amen. And
Amen.
again, once we know better, we
We
should be
do better.
able to do better. And so
Mhm.
the next one that we can talk about is discounting the positive.
Yes.
And this
Mhm.
is unreasonably telling oneself that positive events, attributes, and facts simply not are not so, and they do not count. And an example of that might be I may have done that well, but that doesn't mean that I'm smart. I just got lucky. Oh, come on. Come
Yeah.
on.
We deal with a lot of that with kids. I noticed that,
Yes.
especially in this day and age with the peer pressure and all that stuff going on, the bullying. One of the things that I've noticed with my son, he has a tendency of doing that. I said, listen, what good came out of this situation? Because all I'm hearing is positive, but what good came out of this? And that's what we're going to build things on. Things happen. Hey, we win, we lose, whatever the case may be, but never demean yourself, okay? Because and maybe you're honestly, because I got that perfectionist side of me that I'm harder on myself than I am on anyone else. But my point is, we have to be mindful of it, because I had to start checking myself on it and realize I tell my son, you are enough.
Amen. Amen. And
Mm,
never minimize what you've done, who you are, what you have that God has given you. Don't minimize it.
and
And
don't allow other people to do
if someone gives you a compliment, say thank you.
it.
You don't need to
Yes.
justify it. You don't need to, like,
Or
example,
water it down.
or right. Someone may compliment an outfit. This is like a minute example. Someone may compliment an outfit that one may have on. And rather than saying, this whole thing, I've had it for 15 years, instead of that, just say thank you. You
Yeah,
don't need to just say thank you. Just say thank you.
exactly.
And so
Exactly.
when people give you compliments for a job well done, for an action that you've taken, for anything that you've done positive, accept it. Don't
It's
minimize
okay.
it. Do not
Exactly.
minimize it.
Exactly.
And then the next one is emotional reasoning. Now, this is a common cognitive misconception wherein one believes in the validity of something because I feel. It is so, I feel it is true so strongly that I ignore evidence to the contrary. An
Hmm.
example, I know I do a lot of things well, but I still feel like a failure. Come on.
Yeah.
I feel, sometimes those feelings minimize. Again, we're talking about minimizing who we are, what we have to offer, the gifts that God has given us.
The worst prison to be in is the prison of your own mind.
Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
Absolutely. But then there are
Hmm.
some people that just they don't get it. They don't see it. They don't
I
understand.
was
And
guilty of that for many years. People always say that, Chena, you always love to help people. You always like to do this. And my cousins tell me to this day how much I've changed. because I never saw what they saw in me because I didn't see it in myself. So some of that comes from seeds already planted, seeds already created. So I will say this again. I am enough. You are enough. We are enough.
Amen. Amen. Now, the other is the labeling. Misconceptions occur when we put a fixed generalized label on ourselves or others without considering that available evidence may lead to a less disastrous conclusion. When people say I'm a loser or he's a bad person, oh, one of the things that really gets me is when, and I've done this and I've seen it so many times, complimenting a child, to a parent, saying, oh, he's so cute or so handsome or she's so pretty. And then the parents say, oh, she's so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a contradiction. You're like, really? Okay. Yeah. I agree with that.
I hate that. That is so, I mean, and parents, if other people compliment your children, teach them to say thank you. And
Yes.
then you affirm what other people are saying.
Yes, you are smart. Yes, you are
Yes,
smart.
you are
That's
pretty.
what you
Yes,
do.
you are, you are
Hmm.
intelligent. Yes, you are a hard worker.
And may I just add something else to that? When it comes to labeling, be mindful of how you put your mouth on children,
Oh,
because
yeah,
it will come back. I can promise you that. Not just children, but people, period. But it will come back, because that same child you belittling is the one that's going to be able to help, that God is going to use to bless you later. So just be careful of that, because I don't care what they say about sticks and stones may break my bone, but words will never hurt me. That is a
that's a lie.
bold-faced lie.
That's a
That's a
lie.
bold-faced
Yes,
lie, because those kids, it gets embedded. And I remember being told I was this, I was told I worked as a streetwalker, I told this, and I started believing that thing, you know.
exactly.
And that's how those labelings and stuff start, because of seeds that were planted in me when I was a child. And you have to be mindful when you are, especially if you're an adult, a parent, anyone that has any communication with children, if you can't build them up, keep your mouth shut. Okay,
Absolutely.
don't say
Absolutely.
if you can't say nothing nice, don't say anything at all.
And that was something my mother drilled in us. If you can't say anything nice about a person, don't say anything
Don't
at
say
all.
nothing at all. Yeah.
And so can you imagine if the world was truly like that?
Wouldn't
We'd
that be
be,
nice?
oh
But
man, we'd be so much better off.
people fear what they don't understand.
Exactly. And the
Hmm.
only way that you can understand is to get to know.
Right.
Take some time to talk to people. Take
Hmm.
some time to get to know, even like if you're standing in front in a grocery store in a long line, start dialoguing with the person that's in line with you. You may
Hmm.
learn something, or it may even be an opportunity for you. You never know. You
So
never know.
the only last thing I want to leave when it comes to the labeling is when I hear a child say, "Well, I'm a loser." Well, what made you a loser? Or who told you that you were a loser? Or someone told me this. I said, I didn't know that. Is that your? I said, is that who does God say that you are?
Absolutely.
That's who I said.
Absolutely.
It's not like Tyler Perry said in Medea. It's not what you call, it's what you answer to.
And Eleanor Roosevelt said, no one can make you feel inferior without your
Hmm.
permission. But see,
Exactly.
kids don't understand that. And that's why we
Hmm.
need the drilling. When we hear that, or when in working with kids and having kids say these
Hmm.
negative things about themselves because it's what's been said to them,
Hmm.
helping them to understand that's not necessarily
That's
so.
not your reality, honey.
And that's not your reality. And
That's
you
not
need to
your reality.
understand who you are and whose you are. You
Exactly.
know, And
Exactly.
I have gathered all of the scriptures. There's well over 100 scriptures to help
Mm-hmm.
build confidence and self-esteem. And I include it in, my workshops because it's important for people to know,
Yep.
who you are, and so parents don't call your kids out of their name and stop thinking those things about yourself as well.
Exactly.
Stop
Exactly.
thinking about those things about yourself as well. The
Mhm.
other is um,
Magnification.
magnification or minimization.
Mm-hmm.
Engaging in this misconception is when we evaluate ourselves, others, or situations while unreasonably magnifying or minimizing the positive.
We talked about that. We touched on that a little earlier. How we'll be like, well, I got a C, or just say it was a hard earned C, but you could have got, I could have got a B. Instead of acknowledging the fact that you worked hard to get that C.
Yes. Now,
Mhm.
Alvin says, oh, what happened? He says, labels are for products.
I
Amen,
love
amen,
that. I
amen.
love
Yes,
that.
yes.
Yes.
Labels are for products, not
Mm-hmm.
for people. And then a friend of
Exactly.
mine from Kentucky, Dr. Christopher Kirby. Hi, how
Hey,
are you?
how are
And
you?
congratulations on your doctoral studies. Congratulations. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you.
Awesome.
Thank you for being on and listening. I appreciate it. We've got to talk. It's been a long time. So I'm glad you're here. Thank you. Okay, so I'm glad that we're able to get through these.
Yeah, me too.
Yes, because they're so important.
They're so good. I mean, yeah.
So don't minimize the positive and don't magnify the negatives. As simple as that. As simple as that. Okay, mental filters. Now, this also sometimes is referred to as selective abstraction. When we
Mhm.
think this way, we pay undue attention to one negative detail rather than seeing the big picture.
Mhm.
So, example, since that part of the assignment didn't go well, it means the whole thing was a failure. No, it doesn't. It just means that one piece we need to tweak. We just need
Yes.
to tweak it. Come
Yes.
on. Yes, mental filters.
Mhm.
That's selective reasoning, that's selective abstraction, as it is
Exactly.
also called. And then the other is personalization. When people, okay, it says, this is when we believe that others are acting negatively because of me, because of us, without considering other more plausible causes for their behavior. And so, in essence, taking it personal. And a lot of times it's not about you, it's about the
Over
situation.
analyzing.
Yes, it's
Over
not about
analyzing.
you.
And you know what's interesting? Most of the time, that's a false reality you have created for yourself because they're not even thinking
Absolutely.
about you.
Absolutely. And the example of this is um she didn't smile at me in the hallway because I did something wrong. What did I do wrong? Why didn't she talk to me? Why didn't she look at me? Why didn't,
Guilty. I've been
and the
guilty of that. Hmm.
and the thing is, again, they're probably not even thinking about you. And there
Exactly.
and there are times when people may be looking right through you
Or
and their mind
exactly.
is totally somewhere else. And
My
then we
son is notorious for that. My son would be like, Mom, are you disappointed in me? I'm like, where did that come from? Well, you just got this look on your face. Oh, could it be that we're walking? I'm trying to catch my breath and I'm overweight. That could be it. I said, don't do that. I said, don't make assumptions and then you create your reality based on a false
exactly,
assumption.
exactly.
You
And
need to
people,
find out exactly what it is.
And adults do that. There are
all the
adults
time.
that do
I
that.
was guilty of it. I won't lie. I was the main one. I was, feeling like I had to be validated and, make sure that I knew that people was okay with me. And then they looking at me like, what's everything all right, Gina? So I get it. But you don't have to. Some things just is what it is. And that's all it is.
Right. And again, don't take things so personal. It's not about you. And I've been guilty of that too. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. I've been guilty
Mhm.
of that too. Don't take things personal. And so the other
Mhm.
one is the should and must statements. Now, this type of misconception is also referred to as imperatives. It's
Mhm.
when we have precise, fixed ideas about how we or others should behave, overestimating how bad it would be if these expectations are not met. Example, it's awful that I made a mistake. I should always do my very best. Well, you should always do your very best. However, if you recognize that you have not done your very best, then don't beat yourself up because you made that choice not to do your best. So give it your all. Whatever it is that you do, put your all into it. Put your all into it. Just,
Because what you're gonna have to end up doing is doing it again. So now
yes,
you got to repeat the same thing.
yes.
God will take you through the same test until you pass.
Yes, yes, exactly. Exactly. And even growing up, my mother used to always say, if you're going to do something, do it right the first
The first
time.
time.
And then you won't
Yes.
have to go back and do it over again. And
Yes.
young people need to learn that. Young people
I'm teaching
and
that to
parents,
my son.
yes,
And I'm like,
yes,
you're wasting your TV time because you should have already brushed your teeth by this time. Now you got to go back and then make sure it's right and make sure I see that you're brushing your teeth. So now you done kill some more of your TV time. So who is losing out of this? Because I'm gaining as far as I'm concerned because you can ready to go to bed. But now I'm trying to give you your TV time, but you don't want it.
yes. Wow. And then, Chris says, I know, love you. Yes, love you too. Okay. And the last one
Tunnel
is
vision.
tunnel vision. That, and this is when we're only able to see the negative aspects of a situation. He just can't do anything right. He's so critical and insensitive. Well, we don't need to always see. Why can't we flip the script and see the positives? See the positive things that people are doing. See the positive things that children are doing. I have to share this. Last night I was at my grandchildren's, right? The 5-year-olds. They come downstairs and they say, Grandma, our room needs to be cleaned up. And I said, well, go clean it. And they said, no, it's a big room. And so all of the little ones are all sleeping in the same room. And they said, well, the other two, they're asleep. I said, well, why don't you surprise them? And you and Amaya clean the room and let's take it from there. And I said, and I'll come upstairs and I'll look and see how you've done. Girl, these kids, 5 years old, right? These kids, they got the broom. They did made the bed. They did such an awesome job. 5-year olds,
Awesome.
and I went up. I looked. I was surprised, and I was like, "Oh my God, you guys did an awesome!" And they just, oh, their chests just stood out. And so
Exactly.
when
Exactly.
kids are doing good things, positive things, concentrate on those things. Speak on those things. Let them know when they've done something well instead of always harping on what they didn't do.
If
Instead of
you want to
always,
harp on something, harp on the fact that they did something positive.
yes, yes. Okay, Grady says, hello, ladies. Hello, Grady. Good
Hello.
to see you. Yes, I'm telling you. And to to turn those negative behaviors around when kids are misbehaving or not doing things you want them to do, just turn them and take them to another point. Distract them with something positive. Again, distract them with something
Yes.
positive. If you see they're getting into all these different things, give them a piece of paper and tell them to draw, or give them
Right.
something else to do and turn that negativity into a positive. And praise your kids. Praise your kids. I can't say it enough.
I don't want to.
Alvin,
I just want to. Oh, what would he say?
he says, most of us have more positive instances than negative, but one
That's right.
negative can destroy all the positives. I'm sure that's what he, of course,
Yes.
one negative person can walk into a room of 10 positive people and
And
bring them
bring
all
Debbie
down.
Downer.
Bring them
Yes.
all down. And that's
Yes.
why, I mean, stay away from negativity as much as you can.
Toxic.
Life is
Yes.
too short. It's toxic and it can make you sick.
Very much so. Very
Stay
much so.
away
I did
from
want to
negative
say this
people.
at the I wanted to say I lost my thought.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I wanted to say as parents, before we first of all, we don't react, we respond. And before we speak, breathe. And what you was getting ready to say out of your mouth that could have been, something that's going to tear them down, breathe and think about, you know what? I think we could do this a different way and offer a better way of doing it and then show them a better way of
Absolutely.
doing
Absolutely. Absolutely. And don't say, oh, you're doing this wrong.
it. Yeah.
Never tell a person they're wrong. Never tell a
Mhm,
person they're wrong. Give them suggestions,
mhm.
ideas, and ask them to think about, is there another way we could have done this? Can you
Yes.
think of a bet? Is there another way that you could have done this instead of
That's my
saying you're
favorite
wrong?
go-to.
You
That's my
know,
favorite go-to. Yes.
is there another way we could have done this?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a better way that we could have spoken this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
And what will be a resolution so we can make it better for the next time?
absolutely. And Alvin says, give them a piece of paper and have them list the negatives on one side and the positives on the other. The outcome will always defect the negatives in numbers.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
will always defeat, I'm sorry,
Right.
defeat
Hmm.
the negatives in
That
numbers.
is so
And
true.
that is true.
That is so
That
true.
is true. And just like I recommended and suggested when we did this before, parents, I want you to write down 10 things that you appreciate about your child and ask them to do the same for you and open up that positive dialogue.
It
You
works.
you did it?
I did it with my oldest son, and I
Okay, tell
said,
me about it.
well, based on we had a conversation, and I said, I want you to text me 10 things positive about your mom, and I'm going to text you 10 things. And I gave him a few days to do it. And it was amazing because I was like, wow, some of the things he was saying, and then he was receiving, he asked me to send me his list. He asked me to send my list to him. And it was a very positive response from it. So I thank you for,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, I mean, it is a wonderful exercise. And if you're having frictions with your teenagers or anything like that, do that with them so that you can
Yes,
open up the dialogue. And you may be well surprised at how your kids see you and how,
exactly.
the positive things that they see in you. It's got to be all positive. It can't be negative. If you're going to
Right.
do the negative stuff, you need to come to this forum and
Hmm.
have the dialogue about this in an open and honest way so that your children can look at these misconceptions. And if they see these misconceptions in you, don't get mad at them. And Kirby says parents should provide a safe place for their children
Mm-hmm.
to share their thoughts and start uncomfortable conversations. Absolutely.
Yes.
Children should feel comfortable and safe talking to
Exactly.
their parents if they can't talk to anybody else.
Exactly. Exactly.
That is so important and it is so
Mm-hmm.
true. Absolutely. Absolutely. So share positive thoughts with your kids. Open up that dialogue. And in a case where kids are not communicating with you, it may be because all they're getting from you are negatives instead of positives. So do
Mm-hmm.
this with your children. 10 things that you appreciate and value about them, and ask them to do the same for you. You may be surprised at how your children see you from a positive
Exactly.
perspective. You may be totally
Exactly.
surprised. And so that exercise is very powerful and can be very beneficial to the family.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we finished the list.
Yeah.
So I'm going to recap this list just in case someone wants to know. Okay. First of all, avoiding conflict altogether. By doing that, we are and what I want us to do, Fouchina, let's do a back and forth instead of
Okay.
me doing the whole thing. Okay. So avoiding
Okay.
conflict altogether, when we avoid conflict, that means we're keeping stuff inside. That means it's building up. And when that
Mm-hmm.
happens, we explode or we blurt
Yes.
out in anger, or we blurt out in hurtful ways. So
Mm-hmm.
speak positive and calmly and respectful and get your points across. And you may even have to say, this is very uncomfortable. This is very difficult for me to say, but these are some things that we need to talk about.
Exactly. So piggybacking is being defensive. Rather, what you want to do is you want to create want the children to feel like what they have to say, you're hearing them. Instead of being defensive, we take our walls down, because when we take our walls down, they'll take their walls down.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then overgeneralizing. It's not, things are not always this way or always not this way. So don't overgeneralize. Think about it. You know that things are not always this way or never this way. So
Mhm.
be open and think about what you're saying. Think
Right.
about what you're saying, and especially when you're talking to your parent, your children, or you're even talking to your significant other. You don't want to say, you always do this, you never
Yeah.
do this. You don't want to
Hmm.
do that, because neither is true.
So the
Neither
next one
is.
is being right. And what we have to understand is there's not always a right or wrong at times, but there's 2 points that we need to come to the table of reasoning.
And the other, mind reading and psychoanalyzing. Sometimes you think you already know what a person is thinking or what they're going to do. That means you're not really listening to them.
Yeah.
You've already conjured in your mind what it is that you're going to say and what it is you're going to do without
Mhm.
listening. And so don't psychoanalyze. Stop mind reading. Wait and see what it really is.
Yeah, because God didn't make us a mind reader. He didn't.
No.
Forgetting to listen. Sometimes we have a tendency as people that we just hear because we just want to say what we have to say. So we don't missed out on everything. So just remember to listen. You have to listen in order for our conversation to go. And sometimes you gotta regurgitate what was said and make sure that you are clear on it and then move forward.
Absolutely. And I want to repeat that. You want to, when you are listening to someone, you might want to, just like Fouchina said, you might want to repeat. This is what I think I heard you say.
Right.
Because sometimes what we hear and what other people perceive are two different things.
Totally different.
So, and I've been misunderstood by things that I've said without understanding that how and what I said was misconstrued.
Mm-hmm.
But because we didn't have that back and forth, when,
Mm-hmm.
I should have said to them, well, you tell me, what do you think
Mm-hmm.
you heard me say?
Exactly.
So remember that. And you know what? We've ran out of time again.
It's all right. We
We've
actually got
ran
the list this time.
Yes. So anyway, we talked about all these things, and so I'm hoping that you took notes or that you'll listen to the replay. I want to thank those that came on, Christopher, Dr. Kirby, and Alvin Johnson, and DJ Grady. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being
And
here.
those who are listening to the replay, who will
Yes,
be listening
and
to the replay.
absolutely. So listen, God bless you all. Thank you again, and I will see you next week.
Have a good night.
Yes. Yes. Have a good night. God bless. Trying to find my okay. Good night.
The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk.